The Earl of Thornwood stood in the center of his ballroom, surrounded by the glittering elite of London society, and felt absolutely nothing. Not the warmth of the candles reflecting off crystal chandeliers, not the gentle pressure of a young lady's hand on his arm, not even the faintest stirring of interest in the conversation flowing around him like champagne, bubbly, abundant, and ultimately meaningless. He had been told, repeatedly and with increasing exasperation by his mother, that he needed to marry, that the Thornwood line required an heir, that his 28 years of bachelorhood had stretched from acceptable to concerning to, in her words, a bloody scandal waiting to happen. And so here he was, smiling mechanically at Lady Margaret Whittlesby as she prattled on about her mother's new French milliner, while his eyes drifted across the crowded room with the detached disinterest of a man who had attended far too many of these affairs. "Lord Thornwood, you're not listening to a word I'm saying, are you?" Lady Margaret's voice carried a hint of petulance beneath its practiced sweetness. "Forgive me, my lady. I was merely admiring your—" He paused, searching for something, anything, to compliment. Earrings. They catch the light rather beautifully. The lie came easily. He had been staring at a particularly unfortunate portrait of his great-uncle Algernon, whose painted expression suggested he had just sat on something sharp. Lady Margaret preened, touching her earlobe self-consciously. "They were my grandmother's, a family heirloom." "How lovely," he murmured, already scanning the crowd for an escape route. The French doors leading to the garden were only 20 feet away. If he moved quickly, he could be out before anyone noticed. "There you are, you impossible man!" The voice cut through the ballroom's gentle hum like a cannon shot through silk. Several nearby conversations faltered. A dowager countess actually dropped her fan. Nicholas Thorne, Earl of Thornwood, turned toward the sound with the sinking realization that he had been found. His mother, the Dowager Countess of Thornwood, was bearing down on him with the determined expression of a general who had spotted a deserter. She was a small woman, his mother, barely reaching his shoulder, but she possessed a presence that could fill a cathedral and a voice that could command an army. The crowd parted before her like the Red Sea before Moses. "Mother," he said, mustering a pleasant smile, "how lovely to see you. I was just about to—" "Don't you dare say you were about to step outside for air," she cut him off, arriving at his side with a rustle of expensive silk. "I've heard that excuse 8 times tonight already. You'll catch your death of cold, and then what? I'll have to find a new heir, and your cousin Percival is absolutely useless." "Percival has his virtues," Nicholas said mildly. "Name one." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "Exactly," his mother said triumphantly. "Now, Lady Margaret, if you'll excuse us, I need to speak with my son about a matter of some urgency." She didn't wait for a response, simply took Nicholas's arm and steered him firmly away from the startled young lady. "Mother, that was rather rude," Nicholas protested, as she marched him toward the relative privacy of an alcove. "Rude? She'll live. I've just saved her from a lifetime of being married to a man who would spend every ballroom looking at the door." The Dowager Countess released his arm and fixed him with a look that had made grown men weep. "Nicholas, we need to talk. We talk every day. We talk about the weather, your horses, and whether you've been eating enough. Today, we are going to talk about the future of this family." Nicholas sighed. He had known this was coming. The season was in full swing, and his mother had been dropping increasingly unsubtle hints for weeks. "I am aware of my duty, Mother. I will marry. Eventually. Eventually. Your brother William was married at 23. Your father at 21. Even your reprobate cousin George managed to find a wife, and he has the personality of a damp cabbage. I have certain standards." Nicholas said, trying to sound dignified. I won't marry just anyone. Standards, his mother huffed. What standards? You've rejected every eligible young lady in London. Lady Margaret is beautiful, well-bred, and her family has connections to the royal household. What more could you possibly want? Nicholas didn't answer. He couldn't explain to his mother that he wanted something more than a well-bred, beautiful, perfectly suitable wife. He didn't know what he wanted, but he knew it wasn't this. It wasn't a lifetime of meaningless conversations and strategic alliances and pretending to care about French milliners. You're thinking about her again, aren't you? The question caught him off guard. What? Don't play coy with me, Nicholas. I'm your mother. I know you. You're thinking about that girl from all those years ago. The one who broke your heart and ruined you for anyone else. Nicholas felt his jaw tighten. I have no idea what you're talking about. Of course you don't, his mother said dryly. You just go around rejecting every eligible woman in London for no reason whatsoever. It's perfectly normal behavior for a healthy young man of 28 who isn't still pining over a lost love. I am not pining, he said through gritted teeth. The fact that you feel the need to deny it proves my point. His mother's voice softened slightly. Nicholas, it's been 12 years. Whatever happened, whatever you think happened, it's time to move on. She's probably married to someone else by now, with a house full of children. You can't wait forever. Nicholas stared at the champagne glass in his hand, watching the bubbles rise and pop. 12 years. Had it really been so long? He remembered her vividly. A girl with wild dark curls and eyes like summer storms, who had laughed at his pompous pronouncements and challenged his every assumption. He had been 16, arrogant, convinced he knew everything about the world. She had been a servant's daughter, visiting the estate with her mother, and she had turned his carefully ordered world upside down. I need air, he said abruptly. Nicholas, just for a moment. He slipped away before she could stop him, weaving through the crowd with practiced ease. The French doors were closer now. A few more steps and he would be free. Oof. He collided with someone, hard enough to send them both stumbling. His champagne glass flew from his hand, the contents splashing across the front of a dark blue dress. Oh! I'm terribly sorry. The woman's voice was flustered, apologetic. I wasn't looking where I was going. Let me... Please. It was entirely my fault. Nicholas was already pulling out his handkerchief, trying to assess the damage. I wasn't paying attention at all. I do hope your dress can be saved. He looked up at her properly for the first time, and felt something in his chest go very, very still. The woman before him was dressed simply, in a gown that had clearly been made over more than once. Its fabric faded, and its style several seasons out of date. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun that did nothing to soften the sharp lines of her face. She wore no jewelry, no rouge, no hint of the fashionable artifice that every other woman in the room seemed to embrace. She was, by any objective standard, rather plain. But her eyes, those eyes, dark brown and warm as honey, with flecks of gold that caught the candlelight, looked at him with an expression that made his breath catch. Please, don't concern yourself, she said, dabbing at her dress with a handkerchief that was frayed at the edges. It's just a dress. It will wash. No, I insist, Nicholas said, his voice coming out rougher than intended. I must have you wait while I summon a maid to see what can be done. Perhaps some soap and cold water. Really, my lord, it's not necessary. I'm quite accustomed to accidents. But I am only here as a companion to Lady Ashworth, she said, and there was something in her voice that might have been bitter, might have been resigned. I'm not really part of all this. She gestured vaguely at the ballroom, at the glittering crowd, at everything that separated her from the world he inhabited. Nicholas looked at her more closely. She was young, younger than he had first thought, perhaps mid-20s. There were lines of exhaustion around her eyes, a weariness in her posture that spoke of hard work and little gratitude. And yet, there was something else there too, a spark of intelligence, a hint of hidden depths. "Please," he said again, "let me make amends. I could escort you to the refreshment room, find you a place to sit while a maid—" "My lord, you don't need to. Indulge me." She looked at him, really looked at him, and for a moment something flickered in her eyes. Recognition? Surprise? Fear? Then it was gone, replaced by careful blankness. "Very well," she said quietly, "if you insist." He offered his arm, and after a brief hesitation, she took it. They walked through the crowd together, and Nicholas was acutely aware of the woman at his side, the light pressure of her hand on his arm, the faint scent of lavender that clung to her, the way she kept her eyes fixed straight ahead, refusing to look at anyone. "You must think me terribly clumsy," he said, trying to break the awkward silence. "I think you have a great deal on your mind, my lord. It's easy to become distracted in these gatherings. So you understand." She smiled, and it transformed her face. "I understand that being surrounded by people can be the loneliest place in the world." Something in Nicholas's chest tightened. "That's remarkably perceptive." Not perceptive, just observant. She glanced at him sidelong. "I've been invisible for 12 years, my lord. You learn to see things when no one thinks you're looking." 12 years. The number hit him like a physical blow. Another coincidence. Or perhaps not a coincidence at all. "What's your name?" he asked abruptly. They had reached the refreshment room, which was blessedly empty. She released his arm and stepped away, putting distance between them. "I'm just a companion, my lord. My name isn't important." "All names are important. Please." She looked at him for a long moment, and he had the strange feeling that she was measuring him, weighing something in her mind. "Miss Hannah Miller," she finally said. "I'm Miss Hannah Miller." The name meant nothing to him. It was utterly ordinary, plain, forgettable, and yet there was something about the way she said it, the careful way she kept her eyes lowered, that made him feel as though she were hiding something. "Hannah," he repeated, trying the name on his tongue. It felt familiar, in a way he couldn't explain. "I'm Nicholas Thorne, the Earl of Thornwood." "I know who you are, my lord." A hint of wry amusement crept into her voice. "I don't think there's a person in London who doesn't know who you are." "Yes, well, I suppose that's true enough." He ran a hand through his hair, suddenly self-conscious. "About your dress. Forget about the dress, my lord. It's just a dress. I would much rather you forget the entire encounter." "But I don't want to forget," he said, surprising himself. "I want to know more about you, about how you came to be here, about what you're doing hidden away in the corner, when you should be—" "Should be what?" He hesitated. "I'm not sure. Something more than this. You're too intelligent to be a companion. You have too much fire in you." She laughed, and it was a sad sound. "You don't know anything about me, my lord. You only see what you want to see. Then let me know you. Let me see what's really there." He was moving closer to her, drawn by something he couldn't explain. She stood her ground, but there was a tension in her shoulders, a wariness in her eyes. "I don't think that would be wise," she said softly. "Why not?" "Because—" She hesitated, and for just a moment, he saw something vulnerable in her face, a glimpse of the girl she must have been once. "Because there are things you don't know, things that would change everything." "What things?" She opened her mouth to answer, but before she could speak, the door to the refreshment room burst open, and a young woman in a pink gown rushed in. "There you are!" the newcomer exclaimed. I've been looking everywhere for you. Lady Ashworth is ready to leave, and she's been screaming for you for the past 10 minutes. You're going to be in terrible trouble." Hannah's face went pale. "I'm sorry, Lady Caroline. I lost track of time." "You always do." Lady Caroline's voice was dismissive, almost cruel. "It's rather tiresome. Honestly, do try to be more attentive." Hannah nodded, her face a careful blank. "Yes, Lady Caroline. Of course." She turned to Nicholas, and her eyes were shuttered again, the brief moment of connection gone. "Thank you for your kindness, my lord. I do hope you enjoy the rest of your evening." "Hannah, wait." But she was already gone, following Lady Caroline out the door. Nicholas stood alone in the refreshment room, staring at the empty doorway. What had just happened? Who was this woman who had appeared out of nowhere and disappeared just as quickly, leaving behind a trail of questions and a strange sense of recognition? He shook his head, trying to dismiss the feeling. It was impossible. He had never seen her before in his life. He would have remembered those eyes, that spark of hidden fire. And yet, there was something about her, something familiar, something that nagged at the edges of his memory, like a half-forgotten dream. He needed to see her again. He needed to understand. But as he stepped back into the ballroom, he saw that Lady Ashworth's party was already leaving, a cluster of women in expensive gowns, with Hannah Miller trailing behind them like a shadow. She didn't look back. The next few days were torture. Nicholas couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious Miss Miller. He found himself replaying their brief conversation over and over, analyzing every word, every glance. Why had she seemed so familiar? Why had she looked at him with that strange mixture of recognition and fear? And why couldn't he stop thinking about those eyes? "The Earl of Thornwood is distracted today," his friend Lord Charles Whitford observed, dropping into the chair opposite Nicholas in the club's reading room. "I've been talking to you for 5 minutes, and you haven't heard a word I've said." "Of course I have," Nicholas said automatically. "You were saying something about horses." "I was saying that I'm going to marry Lady Margaret Whittlesby, and I wanted to know if you had any objections." Nicholas blinked, his attention finally snapping into focus. "You're going to marry Lady Margaret? Unless you have some passionate objection to the match. I know she's been after you for years." "Charlie, I have absolutely no objection. I'm delighted for you, truly." Nicholas sat forward, a genuine smile breaking through his preoccupation. "She's a wonderful woman. You'll be very happy together." "I know." Charlie grinned. "I've been in love with her for years, but she was too busy chasing you to notice. It wasn't until you made it perfectly clear you weren't interested that she finally saw me. I'm glad I could be of service. Speaking of which," Charlie leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially, "the whole town is talking about your mysterious encounter at the Ashworth ball. They say you were seen in the refreshment room with a plain-looking woman in an old dress. I was trying to apologize for spilling champagne on her." "Ah, of course. The classic defense." Charlie waggled his eyebrows. "Tell me, this mysterious woman, what was she like?" Nicholas hesitated. "She was interesting." "Interesting? That's all you have to say? I've never heard you describe anyone as interesting before. Usually, it's boring, or dull, or I'd rather drink poison than spend another moment in her company." "She was different," Nicholas said slowly. "She had this way of looking at me, as if she could see right through me, and there was something familiar about her, something I couldn't quite place." Charlie's expression turned serious. "Nicholas, you're not going to do something foolish, are you? Pursue a woman of no station, fall in love with someone completely inappropriate? Don't be ridiculous." "I'm not being ridiculous. I've known you for 15 years, and I've never seen you look like this. You're the most eligible bachelor in London. And you've never shown any interest in anyone. Now you suddenly can't stop thinking about a companion? Nicholas opened his mouth to deny it, but the words stuck in his throat. Good God, you really are smitten, Charlie said, looking horrified. Nicholas, you can't. The scandal would be appalling. Your mother would have a seizure. Lady Margaret would. I said I was interested. Not that I was going to marry her. I just want to talk to her again. To understand what it is about her that's so... He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. So what? So infuriating, Nicholas finished lamely. Charlie studied him for a long moment, then sighed. You're going to do something stupid, aren't you? You're going to track this woman down and make a spectacle of yourself. Probably. Well, at least you're honest about it. Charlie shook his head. I suppose I can't stop you, but for heaven's sake, be careful. The ton has a long memory, and your reputation is already questionable enough. My reputation is impeccable. Your reputation is that of a confirmed bachelor who would rather hunt than dance, and who has rejected every eligible woman in London. That's not impeccable. That's bizarre. Nicholas had to admit that was fair. Still, he couldn't help the feeling that something important was waiting for him, just out of reach. Something he needed to understand. I need to find her again, he said abruptly, standing. What, now? There's no time like the present. You said yourself I've been distracted for days. I won't be able to focus on anything else until I've spoken to her again. Charlie watched him gather his things, a worried expression on his face. You're going to Lady Ashworth's house? You're just going to show up unannounced and demand to see the companion? I'll think of something. You're impossible. Absolutely impossible. Nicholas grinned, feeling lighter than he had in days. I know. That's part of my charm. Lady Ashworth's townhouse was a respectable, if unremarkable building on a quiet street in Mayfair. Nicholas stood on the front step, suddenly uncertain. This was insane. He was the Earl of Thornwood, one of the most sought-after men in London, and he was about to call on a companion, as if she were a proper lady. But he was already here. Turning back now would be cowardly. He raised the knocker and let it fall. The door was opened by a dour-looking butler, who regarded him with the suspicion reserved for door-to-door salesmen and debt collectors. I'm here to see Miss Miller, Nicholas said, hoping his voice sounded more confident than he felt. The butler's expression didn't change. Miss Miller is not receiving visitors, my lord. I see. Perhaps you could tell her that the Earl of Thornwood is here. I don't think. Please. The butler hesitated, then nodded. I will see if she is available. Please wait here, my lord. He disappeared into the house, leaving Nicholas standing in the hallway, trying to compose himself. This was ridiculous. He was the Earl of Thornwood. He didn't get nervous about calling on women. He was the one who made others nervous. But this wasn't any woman. This was Hannah Miller, who had looked at him with those honey-colored eyes and seen something no one else had ever seen. The butler returned, his expression slightly less dour than before. Miss Miller will see you in the small parlor, my lord. This way. Nicholas followed him through the house, trying to ignore the way his heart was racing. He was being foolish. This was just a conversation, nothing more. He was simply curious about a woman who had intrigued him. That was all. The small parlor was, as advertised, small. It was also cramped, filled with furniture that had seen better days, and clearly a room for servants rather than guests. Hannah Miller was standing by the window, her back to him. She was wearing the same blue dress he had spilled champagne on, the stain now faded but still visible. Her hair was in the same severe bun. Everything about her was exactly as he remembered, and yet, there was something different about her today. A stiffness in her shoulders, a tension in the air. Miss Miller, he said softly. She turned to face him, and his breath caught. Her eyes were red-rimmed, as if she had been crying, and there was a haunted look on her face that made his chest ache. "I wasn't expecting you to call," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "I thought I made it clear that our encounter was a coincidence, and not something to be repeated." "It was a coincidence, yes, but I found myself unable to stop thinking about it." "How unfortunate for you." The dryness in her voice made him smile despite himself. "I assure you, it's not your fault. I've always been prone to obsessive thoughts." "You're trying to make me laugh, my lord. It won't work. It's worth a try." She shook her head, but there was a hint of something like warmth in her expression. "Why are you here, my lord? Really? Because I want to know more about you." He moved closer, slowly, giving her time to step away if she wanted. "I want to understand what it is about you that feels so familiar." "I'm not familiar. You've never met me before." "Are you certain about that?" "I have the strangest feeling." "People often have strange feelings," she said, deflecting. "It doesn't mean anything. It means something to me." She looked at him for a long moment, and he saw the walls around her heart, carefully constructed and fiercely guarded. "You don't want to know me, my lord. I'm nothing special. Just a companion, invisible and forgotten." "That's not true." "Of course it's true." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I've spent 12 years being invisible. I know exactly who I am." 12 years. There it was again. A coincidence, or something more? "Tell me about your life," he said softly. "What happened 12 years ago?" The question hung in the air between them, and he saw something flicker in her eyes: surprise, wariness, and then fear. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, too quickly. "Nothing happened 12 years ago. Nothing at all." "You're lying." "I have no idea what you mean. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have duties to attend to. Lady Ashworth requires my presence, and I've already been away too long." "Hannah, wait." She was already moving toward the door, but he caught her arm, gently, not pulling, just asking her to stop. "Please," he said, "I'm not trying to hurt you. I just want to understand." She looked at his hand on her arm, then up at his face. There were tears in her eyes now, and something else, something that looked like fear. "You don't understand, my lord. You can't understand. Some things are meant to stay buried." "Like you've been buried? Is that what you mean? Is that what 12 years of invisibility has been?" She flinched as if he had struck her. "I think you should leave now." "Hannah, please." Her voice cracked. "I can't do this. Not now. Not when everything is so complicated." "Complicated how?" She pulled away from him, wrapping her arms around herself, as if trying to hold herself together. "There are things you don't know," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Things that would change everything. And I can't be the one to tell you." "Tell me what?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I have to go. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Before he could stop her, she was gone, slipping out the door and disappearing into the house. Nicholas stood alone in the small parlor, feeling as though the ground had shifted beneath his feet. Something was going on here, something he didn't understand. Hannah Miller was hiding something, something important, and he was going to find out what it was. The days that followed were a study in frustration. Nicholas attempted to call on Hannah again, only to be told she was unavailable. He sent letters, which were returned unopened. He tried to find out more about her from the servants at Lady Ashworth's house, but they were as tight-lipped as the grave. "Face it, Nicholas," Charlie told him over brandy one evening. "She doesn't want to see you. You're obsessed with a woman who has made it perfectly clear she wants nothing to do with you. She's afraid of something. Of course she's afraid. You're an earl. She's a companion. Any reasonable person would be terrified of the kind of scandal that would follow an association with you. That's not what I mean. She's hiding something from the past. Look, I know this is difficult to hear, but maybe you're projecting. Maybe you're so desperate to find something meaningful in your life that you're seeing secrets where there are none. Nicholas wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Charlie might be right. He was the most eligible bachelor in London, and he had rejected every woman who had come his way. Maybe he was just creating drama where there was none. But then he remembered the look in Hannah's eyes when he had mentioned 12 years ago. The fear, the pain, the desperate attempt to hide something. No, he wasn't imagining this. Something had happened 12 years ago, something that had changed everything. Something that involved him. He didn't know how he knew this, but he was certain of it. Hannah Miller was connected to his past, somehow. The answer was there, just out of reach, tantalizingly close. He just had to find it. His first real breakthrough came a week later, when he was going through his mother's old correspondence. He had been searching for anything that might explain the strange feeling of familiarity he felt toward Hannah. Some mention of a family named Miller, a servant's daughter, something, anything that might connect the dots. He was about to give up when he found a letter. It was written on cream-colored paper, old and yellowed, the ink faded but still legible. The handwriting was feminine, elegant, with a faint tremble that suggested emotion. My dearest mother, I hope this letter finds you well. I am writing because I have news that I am not sure how to share. You see, something happened today. Something wonderful and terrifying and completely unexpected. I met someone. He is young and handsome, and so full of life it takes my breath away. I know he is above my station. I know that he would never look at me if he knew who I really am. But when he smiled at me, I felt like the sun had come out after years of rain. His name is Nicholas. He is the son of the Earl of Thornwood. I know how this must sound. I know that I am just a servant's daughter, and he is a lord's son, and the gap between us is impossible. But mother, when he looks at me, he doesn't see a servant. He sees a person. He sees me. And for the first time in my life, I feel like I matter. I will not do anything foolish. I am not a fool, despite how this letter must make me sound. But I needed to tell someone, and you are the only one I trust. Please, mother, do not think less of me. I know what I am. I know what I can never be. But just for a moment, a small moment, I allowed myself to dream. I am afraid, mother. Afraid of what I feel. Afraid of what it might mean. But I am also hopeful, and that terrifies me most of all. Please write back soon. I need to hear your voice, even if it's only in a letter. Your devoted daughter, Hannah. Nicholas stared at the letter, his hands shaking. This was it. This was the connection he had been looking for. Hannah had known him. 12 years ago, when he was 16, she had known him. But why didn't he remember? Why had this letter been hidden away, unread? He looked at the letter again, more carefully this time. The address was old, the paper yellowed. This letter had been sent more than 12 years ago, at least 15 or 16. And it was addressed to someone who had never received it. His mother, the Dowager Countess, must have intercepted it. She must have read it and decided to keep it from him. Why? What was in this letter that was so dangerous? He read it again, and this time, he noticed something he had missed before. The opening. My dearest mother. That didn't make sense. Hannah had written the letter to her mother, addressing it to someone she called Mother. But why would Hannah's mother be at Thornwood House? Why would her letter have been sent here? Unless Hannah's mother wasn't just a servant. Unless she was someone who lived at Thornwood House. Someone who had access to the family post. Nicholas's mind was racing now. This changed everything. Hannah Miller was connected to his family, somehow. Her mother had lived at Thornwood House, had received letters there, and his mother had hidden this letter, kept it from him for over a decade. He needed answers. He needed to confront his mother. He needed to know the truth. The Dowager Countess was in her sitting room when he burst in, the letter clutched in his hand. "Nicholas! What? What is this?" he demanded, waving the letter in her face. "Why did you hide this from me?" His mother's face went pale. For the first time in his life, he saw her truly afraid. "Where did you find that?" "In your old correspondence. I've been looking for answers, Mother. I've been trying to understand why I feel so connected to Hannah Miller, and I found this." "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me." His voice cracked with emotion. "This letter is from a young woman named Hannah. She writes about meeting a boy named Nicholas, the son of the Earl of Thornwood. That's me, isn't it? I'm the boy she met." "Nicholas, I can explain." "Then explain. Tell me why you hid this letter from me. Tell me why Hannah Miller is living in London as a companion when she should have been." He stopped, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. He remembered now. He remembered a girl with dark curls and summer storm eyes. He remembered laughing with her by the river, sharing secrets in the garden, the way she had looked at him as if he were the most important person in the world. He remembered falling in love for the first and only time in his life. And then he remembered being told that she had left, that her mother had taken her away, that he would never see her again. Except she hadn't left, had she? She had been right there, in London, invisible and forgotten. "Hannah," he breathed, the name falling from his lips like a prayer. His mother's face crumpled. "Oh, Nicholas, I should have told you years ago. I should have." "Told me what? What happened?" "I found her letter," his mother said, her voice shaking. "I saw the way she wrote about you, the way she spoke of love and hope and dreams. And I was afraid, Nicholas. You were just a boy, and she was just a servant's daughter. And I thought if I kept you apart, you would forget her. You would move on and find someone appropriate." "Forget her? Forget the only person who ever made me feel truly alive." Nicholas's voice was bitter. "You took her away from me. You made her invisible." "Nicholas, I was only trying to protect you. You were 16. You didn't know what you wanted. You were just a boy. I was in love." The words hung in the air between them, raw and true. His mother looked at him, tears streaming down her face. "I know you were. I knew it then. I knew it when I read that letter. And I still sent her away because I was afraid." Nicholas shook his head, unable to speak. All those years, all that time, and he had been so close to her. She had been in London all along, just out of reach. "I need to find her," he said abruptly. "I need to tell her I remember. I need to." "She won't see you, Nicholas. She's made that perfectly clear." "Then I'll make her see me." He started toward the door, then stopped. "When did you send her away? How old was she?" His mother's face was white. "She was 14, she whispered. "Just 14 years old, and I destroyed her dreams." Nicholas felt as if the floor had dropped out from under him. Hannah had been 14, just a child, when his mother had torn her away from everything she loved. And he had been 16, old enough to fight for her, and he had done nothing. He had believed what he was told. He had thought she had left willingly, that she had moved on. He had spent 12 years believing a lie. "I need to find her," he said again, and this time there was steel in his voice. "I need to make this right." "Nicholas, please be careful." "I've been careful for 12 years, Mother. That's enough. It's time to be brave." He left her sitting there, staring at the door with tears in her eyes. Finding Hannah wasn't difficult. He knew where she lived, knew her habits, knew the way she moved through the world. He just had to be patient, to wait for the right moment. That moment came 3 days later, when he saw her walking through Hyde Park alone, a faded shawl wrapped around her shoulders against the cold autumn air. He approached her quietly, not wanting to frighten her. "Hannah." She froze, her back to him, and he could see the tension in her shoulders. "I thought I made it clear, my lord. I don't want to see you." "I remember," he said softly. "I remember everything." Slowly, she turned to face him. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with a hope she was clearly trying to suppress. "What do you mean?" "I found your letter, the one you wrote to your mother, and I remembered." He moved closer, taking her hands in his. "I remembered the girl with dark curls, who laughed at my jokes and challenged my assumptions. I remembered the way you made me feel, like I was more than just a title and an estate. I remembered falling in love with you. Nicholas, don't." 12 years, he said, his voice breaking. 12 years, and you were right there. I was searching for you, and I didn't even know it. Hannah's face crumbled. "Why are you doing this? Why are you making this harder than it has to be?" "Because I love you. I've always loved you, from the moment we met in the garden when we were children, and I'm not letting you disappear again." "Nicholas, I know you're scared. I know you've been hurt, but I'm asking you to give me a chance. Not to be the Earl of Thornwood, not to be anything I'm supposed to be, just to be Nicholas, the boy who fell in love with a girl and spent 12 years looking for her." Hannah stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not worthy of you." "Worthy?" He laughed, a sound that was half sob. "Hannah, you're the most worthy person I've ever met. You've been through hell, and you've come out the other side stronger than anyone I know. I've been invisible for 12 years. I've been nothing. You've been everything," he said fiercely. "You've been the one thing I couldn't forget, the one thing I couldn't let go of." She was crying now, her shoulders shaking with sobs. He pulled her into his arms, holding her against his chest, feeling her tears soak through his shirt. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry. I should have fought harder. I should have told you the truth. I should have—" "Shh," he said, stroking her hair. "It's not your fault. None of this was your fault. Your mother. I know. I spoke to her. She told me everything. Then you know, I'm just a servant's daughter. I'm nothing. I'm nobody." "Don't," he said firmly. "Don't ever say that. You're not nothing, Hannah. You're everything." She looked up at him, her honey-colored eyes shining with tears. "What are we going to do? We can't be together. It's impossible." "Nothing is impossible," he said, cupping her face in his hands. "I'm going to marry you, Hannah. I'm going to make you my countess. And anyone who has a problem with that can answer to me." "You can't be serious. The scandal. I've spent 12 years being too afraid of scandal, too afraid of what people might think. I'm done with that. I'm done with being afraid. But Nicholas, I've been a servant. I've been a companion. I have nothing to bring to a marriage." "You have everything," he interrupted. "You have your heart. You have your courage. You have your strength. And most importantly, you have my love. But—" "No more buts." He kissed her forehead gently. "I love you, Hannah. I've always loved you, and I'm not letting you go again." She was quiet for a long moment, and then she started to laugh, a sound that was half hysterical, half joyful. "You're insane," she said. "Absolutely insane." "Probably," he agreed. "But I'm also very, very persistent." "I love you too," she said softly, and the words felt like a benediction. "I've always loved you, even when I tried so hard not to." "Then say yes, Hannah. Say yes to me, to us, to a future that's been waiting for us for 12 years. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Nicholas. Yes. He kissed her then, there in the middle of Hyde Park, with the autumn leaves falling around them like golden rain. It was a kiss that had been 12 years in the making, a kiss that spoke of lost chances and second chances, of fear and courage, of love that had waited patiently for its moment. The world could think what it liked. The scandal, the gossip, the raised eyebrows, none of it mattered. What mattered was this moment, right here, with Hannah in his arms, her lips soft against his, her heart beating in time with his own. 12 years of separation, of invisibility, of pain. And now, finally, a future together. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of preparation and planning. Nicholas announced his engagement to Hannah Miller, and the ton exploded. "How could you do this to me?" His mother's voice could be heard throughout the entire house. Marrying a servant? A companion? What were you thinking? "I was thinking," Nicholas said calmly, "that I was in love, and that I had been in love with her for 12 years. You're throwing away your future for some nobody. She's not nobody. She's my fiancée, and you're going to treat her with respect if you want to remain welcome in my home." His mother sputtered, but she had no answer to that. She knew her son too well to believe he would change his mind. The wedding was small and quiet, held in a tiny country church, far from the prying eyes of London society. Only Charlie and a few of Nicholas's closest friends attended, along with a handful of servants who had been loyal to the family for generations. Hannah wore a simple white dress, made from fabric she had saved for years, dreaming of this day. She looked beautiful, radiant, and when she walked down the aisle toward him, Nicholas felt his heart nearly burst with joy. "Who gives this woman to be married to this man?" the vicar asked. Silence. Hannah's mother had died years ago, and there was no one else. "I do," a voice said, from the back of the church. Everyone turned to look. It was the Dowager Countess, dressed in her finest gown, walking slowly down the aisle toward them. "Mother?" Nicholas's voice was surprised. "I've been wrong," she said, her eyes full of tears. "I've been wrong about so many things, but I was never more wrong than when I tried to keep you apart. Hannah, my dear." She turned to the bride, her face soft. "I'm so sorry. I should have let you love each other all those years ago. I should never have kept you apart." Hannah was crying now, her tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you. I can't promise I'll be the best mother-in-law," the Dowager Countess said, a watery smile on her face. "I'm too set in my ways. But I promise to try. For Nicholas. For you. For this family we're going to build together." She took Hannah's hand and placed it in Nicholas's. "Take care of her," she said to her son. "Take care of her, and never let her go again." "I won't," Nicholas promised. "Never again." The vicar smiled. "Shall we continue?" The wedding was beautiful, the reception simple but joyful. And when Nicholas finally led Hannah to their carriage, she was still crying. "I'm sorry," she said. "I can't stop crying." "Don't apologize," he said, pulling her close. "You've waited 12 years for this. You're allowed to cry." "I can't believe it. I can't believe we're finally married." "I can. I always knew we would be together." "Always?" "Always." He kissed her forehead. "From the moment I saw you in the garden, I knew you were the one for me. It took us 12 years to get here, but we made it." Hannah laughed, the sound bright and happy. "We were so young. We were. But we grew up, and we found our way back to each other. I love you, Nicholas Thorne. And I love you, Hannah Thorne." He smiled at her. "You're my wife. Finally. Finally." They were quiet for a moment. just holding each other, feeling the rightness of it. "What about Lady Margaret?" Hannah asked eventually. "Will she be terribly upset about the gossip?" "Lady Margaret is marrying Charlie. She's perfectly happy. Thank goodness. And Lady Ashworth has dismissed you, I'm afraid. Something about you being too scandalous for her household." Hannah laughed again. "I didn't think I could be too scandalous for anyone. You're a countess now. That's very scandalous for a former companion." "I suppose it is." She smiled up at him. "What would you like to do now, my lord?" "I would like to go home," he said. "Home to Thornwood House, where we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. And I want to take my wife home and show her exactly how much she means to me."
"That sounds lovely," she said.
"It will be," he promised. "It will be." The carriage rolled through the countryside, carrying them toward their future. Behind them, the life they had known, the loneliness, the fear, the invisibility, was fading away. Ahead of them was something new, something bright and full of promise. It had taken 12 years, but they had finally found each other. And that was all that mattered. 1 year later, Nicholas and Hannah Thorne were hosting their first ball as Lord and Lady Thornwood. The ballroom was full of guests, the cream of London society, all eager to see the scandalous couple who had defied convention and married for love. Hannah stood at the top of the staircase, resplendent in a gown of deep emerald green. She was no longer the invisible companion, the faded woman in the corner. She was a countess, a wife, a woman who had found her place in the world. Nicholas stood beside her, his hand on the small of her back, his eyes shining with love and pride. "Are you ready for this?" he asked. "Ready as I'll ever be," she said, smiling. "Remember, if anyone says anything, I'll throw them out." "Nicholas, you can't throw out all of society. Watch me." She laughed, the sound filling the ballroom with joy. "I love you, husband, and I love you, wife. Now, shall we show them what a scandalous couple looks like?" They walked down the stairs together, hand in hand, and the crowd parted before them. It was everything they had ever dreamed of, and so much more. 12 years of waiting, of searching, of hoping. And finally, a happy ending. The Earl of Thornwood and his countess lived a long and happy life together, proving that love truly does conquer all. They had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, and the Dowager Countess became the doting grandmother she had never expected to be. As for the secret that had been hidden for 12 years, it became nothing more than a memory, a story they would tell their grandchildren someday, of how they had met as children, been torn apart, and found their way back to each other, of how love, true love, waited patiently for its moment, and of how, sometimes, the people we're looking for have been right in front of us all along, waiting for us to see them. If you enjoyed this story of lost love, second chances, and secrets finally brought to light, then please show your support by hitting that like button. It truly helps more viewers discover these stories. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another tale of romance, mystery, and happily ever afters. But more importantly, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a connection with someone that time and distance couldn't break? Someone who stayed in your heart no matter what? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and your words might just inspire our next story. And if you want more stories like this, I've got something special for you. A story about a duke who never believed in love until a mysterious woman appeared at his door with a secret that would change everything. Click the video on the screen right now to watch The Duke Who Didn't Believe in Love. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, sometimes the love you're searching for has been right in front of you all along. I'll see you in the next story.